Okay, so this is like the second part because I had to like pause the other one just because I don't want to lose like an hour worth of footage if like my computer dies. It's at 10%. Too much information. You didn't need to know that. But anyway, um, so just to recap, Ida Crutchfield owns a hotel in Charleston, West Virginia. Says she saw them 1 week after. Sorry, there's people being loud out there. Um, saw two Italian men, one Italian woman, and only four. She did say, I don't know if she made it the first claim or whatever, but she says she saw four of the kids. And, oh no. I saw my coworkers again. She saw four of the kids. And, she tried talking to them. She was all like, hey, like, how's it going? And they looked really scared. They were like, why are you talking to us? And they all spoke English. Like, she knew they all spoke English because they were speaking English in the beginning. But once she started trying to talk to them, they switched to Italian. And the older people, the assumed parents, were all like, they started like reprimanding the kids in Italian when she tried speaking, and then the kids like went away. So it definitely seemed she didn't speak Italian, so she couldn't confirm. It seemed like the adults told the children like, go away, like don't speak to her, like that's not your job. And the children spoke Italian because like they learned it from their parents, so like they had known Italian. So this does make sense. A lot of people are all like, no, like this woman is making up stuff because number one, like she just wants to reward money. Number two, it doesn't make sense like why she would mention this so late. And number three, like it just like it doesn't add anything to the conversation. But my analysis and a lot of other people's analyses said that Ida Crutchfield, what she did say was like very relevant, very impactful, and she wasn't lying. And I don't want to like say 100% sure, but I'd say like 75% sure. Like I'll even say 80% sure. Yeah, 5% difference. This woman is not lying, and the reason being is she's not lying because she said she wasn't going to get the reward. Like she was all like, listen, like this information is valuable, but it's not going to get me that reward. I'm not taking the reward. I'm just trying to help you find peace and like just help your investigation. She also said like if she wanted to lie, like okay, valid. Like I believe that people would lie because people did try lying. They sent in letters because they won that money and they were struck down. And the reason why I think she wasn't lying because she said there was only 4 children. She was like, I only saw 4 children. If she was going to lie, she would have said I saw all 5. But she said she didn't see the oldest son. And a lot of people on the Web Sleuth website that I was like looking through that had all the forums and stuff, they had said that Maurice was definitely the hothead of the group. He was the oldest. He was, I think, 14, 15. Like, he was ready to fight. Like he probably would have fought with whoever tried stealing him, and probably would have had been executed. A lot of people said that the children were probably brought into the cemetery at one point, and they got rid of any of the ones that like tried fighting or whatever. But that wouldn't make sense because the restaurant later on. So at some point they had to have gotten rid of Maurice. And this hotelier, she said, she saw them all leave the next morning, like super early in the morning. She saw the entire family like leave this hotel, get into the car, and drive away. It was all one car. She didn't see the license plate, so she couldn't confirm if it was that Florida thing or whatever. But it kind of matches up with the restaurant lady because she's all like, I saw 2 men, all the children, they were all eating. This is also a really sad story. I'm sorry. Like I keep on sniffling. I can't tell if it's because I'm sad, but like I'm definitely having allergies, so probably a mixture. So then for the next like over 10 years, like they're getting letters from people saying like, oh, I found your kids, and like these letters just like they don't add up, and none of them are valuable, except we get 2 in the same year that are vital, like very probably the closest things we'll have to like solving this mystery. So it's 1967. The first one is from Houston, Texas, and it's from a woman. And she said, like, this is completely random. She said that one night she had no idea of this entire mystery. Like, she had no idea. She said she didn't want the reward either. Um, she knew this man. I guess she didn't provide too much information. She said she knew this man. One night he got really drunk, and he said, "My name is Louis or Luis. I don't know how you pronounce it, but I'm gonna go with Louis because that's how it's spelled." He said his name's Louis, which is at the time of the fire he was 9 years old. He would have been like 20 something years old. No, probably even close to 30, over 30. He said, "I'm Louis. I got where was I going with this? Oh, and he was drunk. He was crying. He was really upset. He's all like, "This is what happened to my family. I can't go back to them. It's not safe for them." He says all this crazy stuff to her, and she was in this letter. She's all like, she does not really give her information to the Sodder family. She was like, "Don't contact me. Go straight through the police. Like, you need to find this man out because what he said to me like pretty much confirms what happened to your child, or at least one of your children." So George Sodder and his son-in-law, so I think Marion's husband, went and they drove all the way to Texas. They did contact the police. The police were all like, "Oh yeah, like we'll help you find this person that she wrote down," because she wrote down his name, and she wrote down the name of Louis and and a person that could have been Maurice. She was all like, because I guess Louis was really close friends with someone that looked very close or said he had a brother. And they go and they like talk to this man, and the two men, the alleged like Maurice and Louis, they're all like, "Nope, like that's not us." And George doesn't really talk much about this incident, so it's really hard to analyze this. Like, no one talks much about it, but the son-in-law, after George died, he provided a lot of information. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but like some information on this meeting. And even though Louis and Maurice, or the men, I wouldn't say pretending, but who are thought to have been them, even though they say like that's not us, like you're mistaken, like there's some sort of like emotional, like upsetness between both parties. And George comes back and he's all like, "You know what? Like, even though they said that wasn't like them, I'm pretty sure it was them. And I'm pretty sure, oh jeez, why does my computer have to die? I'm pretty sure they were denying it because it would put either them at risk or us at risk. So there's a reason why, like, George was very, very convinced that it was them. But this kind of changes. I need to make this quick, but I don't want to because it's such a good story. One day they get a letter from Central City, Kentucky. Never heard of it before. Just has one picture in it. And the picture is of a young-ish, like a 30-year-old Italian man. On the back it said, I'm going to find it word for word. Sorry. It said Louis Sodder. So it's a picture of this Italian man that looks very similar to young Louis, like very, very similar. Like the features, look them up. Louis Sodder. Look up the letter that they received and look up like the son when he was little. So on the back of the letter it says, "Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie," which weird. They don't have a brother named Frankie. Ill boys, and then underneath that says A90132, but it was in really crappy handwriting, so they're not sure whether it was a 32 at the end or a 35. So what's so striking about this is apparently when they were little, they had a catchphrase, like they would call each other Illil, or like Illil was like a slang term in the household, meaning little. So yeah, that's crazy. And that was the most convincing lead they had, and it's also the last major lead they've ever had. They were so convinced that they hired this pretty, I wouldn't say well-known, but like this pretty like good private investigator nearby, and they said, "You need to go to the city in Kentucky, take the letter with you. Well, they made like a scan or whatever. I don't know what they had back then, but the scan, of course, reproduced it like worse than the original actually was. This private investigator goes to Kentucky, disappears, never hear from him again. Really weird, isn't that? Like, that's mind-boggling to me. This is all 1967, and at this time, or at this point in time, George Sodder's like getting kind of old. Like, he's probably gonna pass away soon, so he's very like upset. And they are so sure that is Lewis that they get that picture of him printed out or like painted or something and hung over a fireplace. And we're gonna analyze that in 1 second. I'm at 5% on my laptop, so I'm like, I need to analyze this because there's so much crazy stuff, like so many crazy connections. George Sodder ends up dying in 1969, and Jenny ends up dying in 1989. And then the siblings, they continue their investigation, but it's not the same without their parents. The giant billboards they had, which were famous in their town, they tear that down. Yeah. And today there's still a big investigation. Like, a lot of people are going after it, or like searching for it. Sorry if I keep on looking above and getting distracted. There's people. Even though it's 1 a.m., they need to go to bed. As do I. But what most of... So, like, to go into my analysis, I encourage you to come up with your own analyses. Comment them below. But here's what I believe, just after reading hours of stuff, and I'm probably not even in the top 100 most knowledgeable people about this case. I wish I was, because this is like the most mind-boggling thing to me. So yeah, like I said, make your own decision. This is what I believe. I believe that George was somehow connected to the Sicilian/Italian mafia. We'll get into why later. I believe this because he has like kind of a sketchy background. Like, I don't know if he was like involved with it when he was really young or whatever, but at some point, like, he had to have, or the family had to have been contacted by the mafia, because it was all over the town. It was all over West Virginia at this point. There was no way to really escape it. And also, he worked like connections with the coal mining industry, and the Italian mafia was very notorious for being a part of that, like being very, very in depth with the coal mining. I'm at 4%, so I'm like going really fast now. So I believe that the mafia was targeting him and his family because they were so anti-Mussolini. With Mussolini's death and George celebrating it, like, they targeted him. I really believe that. I believe that the insurance guy was in on it. I believe that the worker that came that one time was in on it. The alleged thief that went and like moved the ladder, like, even the woman that had the phone call. I wanted to mention this. I think that was a ploy to see who was awake, like, just to like check in with them. And it was, I want to say it was definitely not the wiring. I believe it was 100% not the wiring, because the wiring, like, there was no way the wiring was off. The Christmas lights, the phone was still on, like, everything was still on in the house. Even while the house was burning down, they saw the lights still on the inside. There was no way that the lights were not, or that the lights were off, and the phone line was cut, like, and the trucks were tampered with. Like, there was so much wrong with this situation. So this fire, I believe that the mafia had to have done it. Like, I don't want to say it because I don't want it to like be a murder. I wish it was just like wires, like it was just this big accident, but I believe that the mafia did do it. However, the thing about the deaths of the children, I don't think the children died, but I think it's a possibility. Like, if I can go back in time and like be there for it and like witness what had happened, and I saw like the children had died, I wouldn't be shocked. However, I don't think the children died. I think that they yelled up for the children. They like went up, they yelled for the children didn't call back. A lot of people said, well, maybe because the smoke had risen or something like that, it had killed the children first, so they couldn't call back. But even then, like, George Sodder, like, he broke through that window. He was trying to get into like them, or into their attic. He didn't see anything. So maybe they could have died because of that smoke inhalation. And I guess the only thing that really gives credence to the children dying is John, the son that said that he went up into there and saw the children. He actually opposed any investigation into his siblings' death or disappearance because he says that they were dead. So maybe he had gone up there, saw that they were dead, and didn't want to say anything and kept that secret to his grave. Sorry, I need some water, but highly unlikely. I don't believe that at all. What else? So I believe that very possible the children were abducted. A lot of people are obsessed with the thought that people broke into the attic to steal the children, but I think it's very possible that someone broke into the back door or something like that and got the children out, or maybe there was some way, like, Marianne was asleep, everyone was asleep, the children could have been easily taken out of the house, but at the same time, like, wouldn't they have screamed, wouldn't they have, like, alerted someone? So maybe they went outside. I have no idea. Maybe the two sons went out to go take care of the chickens, got stolen, and then while the sons were gone, like, the little girls got taken. I have no idea. I think it's very possible they were taken. Maybe they got out of the house and they were taken at that point. But there's a lot of evidence that adds up or a lot of supposed evidence that adds up that the children were taken and driven somewhere else. And like I already told you, like, the people that took them could have been a part of the mafia. We have no idea. So that's the big thing about the mafia I wanted to mention. I don't want to miss anything because I don't want to have to, like, make a second video, which I won't. This video was long enough. I added more than enough details. And the next big thing was the postal code. Okay, I didn't mention this. I'll make this really quick. So the postal code. So in the letter from Lewis. Oh jeez, I don't want this to die. In the letter from Lewis, on the back of the picture, like I said, there was said his name. He said, "I love brother Frankie." No one knows what that means. Third one was "ill little boys," which was the supposed slang to prove that he was, like, one of them. I don't have any opinion on that, and from what I can find in the forums, no one really had an opinion. Well, they knew that "a little boys" was probably a way of, like, saying, like, I'm actually the real deal. Second line, people disagree on that. People are saying maybe that was a part of the mafia, maybe, like, that was someone he knew. Then the fourth line was just, like, random numbers, and everyone was all like, I saw a lot of people posting in the forum saying, oh, like, someone was pulling a prank on them. But if you look it up, A04 whatever it is, 35, that is the postal code of Palermo, Sicily. So what I think is he was trying to get them. He was trying to say that he was in Palermo. They should have gone there. And just to end this really quick, because my computer is at 2%, people did look up, like, the census of Italy, like, of Palermo, of Sardinia, and it turns out, this is super weird, but someone posted in a census or in an online, like, Ancestry.com, like, in 2005, they posted that they had relatives of the same name, or they had, like, a Uncle Lewis or something like that, and it matched up because it said, like, oh, his father had moved to West Virginia, but he moved back to Italy, so there's a good chance that they were taken back to Italy, and that's where they lived, even though there were reports that they lived in, like, convents and monasteries. Like, there's a whole bunch of reports, I believe personally, that they were taken back to Italy, became a part of the mafia. As for the Texas people, they could have been living at Texas at one point. They obviously were in Kentucky at one point. When they wrote that letter, they didn't have a return address. But yes, as you can tell, I'm super passionate about this. I wish my hypothesis could be, like, tested, and it was so interesting. I feel like a big nerd, pretty morbid nerd, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Give me any recommendations. I have nothing to do for the next couple of days, so I'm probably going to be making quite a few, like, mystery videos of my favorite mysteries. So yes, stay tuned, and thank you for watching.